For the first time in 12,000 years, Niagara Falls made no sound. And when the water disappeared, it didn't just expose rock, it revealed things no one expected. Coins, bodies, things left behind. Things the water had been hiding for decades. Where one of the most famous waterfalls on Earth should have been exploding into mist, there was rock, a raw cliff, broken stone, silence where thunder was supposed to live. In 1969, something impossible happened. Humans turned off Niagara Falls. Tourists stood at the edge, staring into nothing. Where the water should have been, there was only rock. Niagara wasn't supposed to stop. It was supposed to be permanent. And yet, part of it was gone. At first, it felt wrong. Not logically, on a gut level. People came expecting the roar, the spray, that constant wall of motion. Instead, they found a thin trickle and an exposed wound in the landscape. Some just stood there. Some complained. Others moved closer, not away, because the shock pulled them in. But that wasn't the strangest part. Niagara wasn't fully stopped. One side still roared. The Canadian Falls kept moving. But the American Falls was completely silent. Upstream, they had changed the river itself. A massive rock dam, 28,000 tons of stone dumped in just 3 days, forcing the water away from the American side. And in that moment, something that felt untouchable looked controllable. It wasn't done for spectacle. It wasn't done for show. They did it because the falls might have been dying. For years, the rock beneath the falls had been giving way, huge sections collapsing at the base, each collapse leaving behind massive piles of rubble, what engineers called talus. By the 1960s, it had grown so large, it started changing the falls themselves. The drop was shrinking, the power fading. What if Niagara stopped being Niagara? That's when the government stepped in. Not to destroy it, but to study it. And once the water was gone, everything changed. The cliff became a job site. Engineers moved across the exposed rock, drilling into it, pulling out core samples, injecting dye into hidden cracks to track how water moved beneath the surface, installing instruments deep inside the stone to measure the pressure holding it together. For the first time in history, Niagara wasn't moving. It was being examined. And then they found something no one expected. The rubble at the base, the thing everyone thought needed to be removed, might have been holding the waterfall together. That was the problem. Remove the talus, and you risk triggering even more collapse. So what looked like damage was actually protection. And just like that, the entire mission changed. This wasn't cleanup anymore. It was a dilemma. Fix the falls, or risk destroying it. And then something else shifted. Because the water hadn't just hidden rock, it had hidden everything. Coins, thousands of them, decades of wishes scattered across the riverbed. And then someone stopped walking. At first it looked like a rock, half buried near the base. Until they looked closer. It wasn't rock, it was a body. Then another. 2 bodies preserved beneath years of cold water and darkness. For decades, people had gone over the falls, some by accident, some by choice. Many were never found. Now, the river was giving them back. That's when it stopped feeling like engineering and started feeling like something else. Still, people kept coming. More than 100,000 in a single weekend. Families, photographers, engineers, all drawn to the same thing. Not the power of Niagara, but its absence. Some people didn't just look. They took things. Coins, pieces of rock. Officials had to step in, warning people not to treat it like a souvenir site. Because the moment the water disappeared, it stopped feeling like a landmark and started feeling like something abandoned. Because for the first time, you could see what had always been hidden. And the deeper they looked, the less certain everything became. Workers tried to stabilize the rock: bolts, cement, steel supports. But every attempt led to the same question: how far can you fix something before it stops being natural? What exactly were they trying to save? The falls as nature made it? Or the version people expected to see? Because those are not the same thing. And in the end, that question decided everything. After more than 5 months, they made their choice. Do nothing. Leave the rock. Leave the rubble. Leave the imperfections. And let the falls remain alive. In November 1969, the dam was removed. At first, just a trickle, then more, then a low rumble, and the water returned, crashing over the edge, exploding into mist, shaking the ground beneath it. Within minutes, Niagara Falls was alive again. The roar came back, as if nothing had happened. But something had. For months, one of the most powerful forces on Earth had been stopped. And when humans finally had the chance to fix it, they didn't. Because what looked broken was the thing holding it together. That's the real story of 1969. Not that Niagara Falls was turned off, but that when we finally had control over something that felt permanent, we realized it was never ours to perfect. Niagara doesn't choose who survives. It only decides who was wrong. And most of the time, they realize it too late. If this story stayed with you, there are more like it. Stories where nothing looks dangerous until it is. This is the Anomalous Archive, and some places don't forgive mistakes.